Hi and welcome to the Betway Beat, brought to you by SoccerBeat, and I'm your host, Peter du Toit, and I've got arguably South Africa's top coach at the moment, Steve Barker, with us. Steve, welcome. Appreciate your time with a big final ahead of you.
Thank you, Peter. It's a pleasure to be chatting to you.
Good, man. I appreciate it. Let's talk MTN straight away, and I want to talk to you about the miracle of Stellenbosch and the man behind it yourself a little later as well, and break a few myths that some people have been saying about the club. But let's go straight to the final. Orlando Pirates, they're unbeaten, so they're the most on-form team at the moment. You don't get a better record than being unbeaten. But if I look at the way they play and the way you guys play, if there's a team in the PSL, certainly the better teams in the PSL, this team almost looks tailor-made for you right now.
Peter, I think it's, obviously they've had a great start to the season. Having played 10 games unbeaten. I think they've scored 19 goals and only conceded 3. We're also a team in decent form, although we lost against Arrows. We've won 7 out of the 10, drawn 2, and we've scored 20 goals and conceded 5. So I think it's 2 teams that are in good form. It's 2 teams that both finished on, 50 points last season. We played them last season. We beat them 3 times. So definitely we're playing against a team that's in good form, that, are unbeaten for the season. But at the same time, I believe, as you rightly say, sometimes some teams are more dangerous without the ball. And I think we pride ourselves in being a team that, out of possession, we use that opportunity to attack the opposition. So, that Pirates want to play football and they want to keep the ball and they're very possession-based, which we understand that they'll most likely have more possession than us. But at the same time, if we defend well and our structure is really good, that creates a platform to then attack them when, there is a transition. So, Pirates are a good team, but I agree with you. There's a type of team that if we really good on transitions, we can ask them a lot of questions.
Yeah, I especially think with the way they play, with their 2 fullbacks bombing forward, although you've taken one away from them, but we'll get to that. Then they got 2 kind of midfielders, one possible holding. They got 2 wide men. Tito plays kind of in the middle. It's almost a luxury role against your team. How do you see?
Yes. Look, I think if you look at their front 4, Masmanganye is obviously, he's in the media a lot. He's had a really great season last year. There are 2 wide players. If Saleng, I think he would be available. He was slightly injured, but I think he'll be available for the match. And obviously the young Mofokeng is really, prodigious talent. And Mabasa up front is, I believe one of the best strikers in the league. So their attacking sort of force is of high caliber, individual brilliance. And as you say, the 2 fullbacks, Hotto gets forward, a lot. He's in a very attacking type of fullback. And, whichever right back they play will also get forward. So, they have numbers in attack, which can cause you problems. But hopefully, we can defend that front 4 of theirs and, utilize the space that is then left behind, in behind their fullbacks. So it'll be a bit of a cat and mouse game where, it's one team sort of playing a certain way and us playing a different type of way. But I think people underestimate also our playing ability with the ball. So yes, we may be good on transitions, but I think when we have the ball, I always say that when you play teams that like possession, do they like defending when another team has possession? So, hopefully we can get a good balance of defending well, but also at the same time, we've got to try and also ask them questions. We can't just sit back. We've also got to be making them defend. So yeah, we're looking forward to the challenge.
I think it's a very good analogy that teams who keep possession like to defend, and obviously the top teams like Manchester City and the Wolves and the Real Madrid, obviously they can do both. But it'll be a very interesting test it'll be a very good test for Orlando Pirates this particular game. Just their coach Jose Rivera looking at this game, no matter what the result is, I think this is a game that's going to teach Pirates more about themselves than any game they've played so far this season. Polokwane, just sat back and didn't really play any counter-attack in football until they went 1-0 down. Whereas you guys, I see you guys like boxers. You know, you can take, you can hold, you can, parry those punches, but once you see a gap in that punch, bang, and then the team's 1-0 down. So it's going to be very interesting to see how Pirates will punch against a counter-punching team. But let's just go back to, if I look at your team, there is no ways, and this is no disrespect to the players you've got there, there's no ways, if you look at your team, and I'm very impressed with your team, by the way, and I think deservedly you came third last year. You won the Carling Nedbank semi-finalist in Africa. You're in the final right now, so that's completely deserved, and it's testament to yourself, obviously, and testament to the players. However, if you look at these players, they're either homegrown or they, and I don't mean this disrespectfully, because I'm incredibly impressed with guys like, I've always liked De Jong as a player, incidentally, but they're journeymen to a certain extent. These are not players that Chiefs, Pirates, and Sundowns had on their shopping list. How do you get in the ring with these guys every single game, and particularly last season, this season again? You can't say it's just good organization. You can't say it's just good planning. There's something different here, Steve. There's something magical happening, because these are not. I mean, you end up selling these players, and these are your star players. You get rid of a striker who's prolific, and bang, there doesn't seem to be any difference. You get a Van Wyk, who I think was a super player, gone. Your right back. What's happening? You've got Muti there. Tell us about it. Something's happening.
Yeah, Peter, it's a bit of a cliche type of answer, but to be really honest, we probably over the last, I would say, 3 to 5 years, been the club in South Africa that has had the best recruitment strategy. In terms of the type of players that we look to sign, and we obviously use data in sort of a lot of our finding players. So, as you rightly say, players like, Andre de Jong, Thabo Molasani and Janino Palace, who were with the relegated team in Maritzburg. We sort of acquired their services. We brought in Sanele Barnes from Richards Bay. We brought in Bradley Mojela, from TS Galaxy. And they're all real quality footballers. And it's sort of, if I can say it, hulle weet nie wat ons weet nie. We know some of the quality that the league has. And I think we on the front foot when it comes to finding, players that are a little bit under the radar. Whether they, come as sort of free agents or we don't have to spend a lot of money in getting them. Our ability to find the talent in the country, I think, is unparalleled. We don't go on media hype and a player scores 2 or 3 goals in 3 games. Now he's the next best footballer. We evaluate over extended amount of time, extended type of minutes. We use the data to see what is the real quality of a player. And I think that just put us in, good stead in terms of that ability and also anticipation that a player may move on. We anticipated Reyners had a buyout in his clause, in his contract. We anticipated after having such a good season that, it would be, the clause would be sort of exercised. And in knowing that may happen, we then have contingency plans. So I think to answer your question, I think it's a little bit of magic, it's a little bit of luck, but mainly it's through hard work and proper recruitment and having a proper recruitment strategy that allows us to lose players but still to be competitive.
So funny enough, Steve, what I would say, what you summarized, and if I summarize it for the viewers, is that strategy is important, and short-term planning and long-term planning go together. So you've obviously got that. And what you're actually doing, though, and this is testament to the club and the people who you surround yourself with, so 10 out of 10, like a good business, you're actually doing the job better than the others. So your recruitment you're doing is better because you're not buying moneyed players. You've seen something in players that other clubs aren't seeing, and these exact players who are, let's call them B-grade players, are now competing with A-grade players. So they've become A-grade players. So you've taken stock, so to speak, or if you bought a house, you've renovated and you've got something of higher value because you're selling that at higher value. So whoever's behind this, and you're the CEO, 10 out of 10. Guys, that's the difference with with but Steve, there's another question though,
Yeah.
and this is the interesting, is that now you've taken these
Yes.
players and you sell them, but a lot of them are not. Some of them are not as successful, despite the fact that you've turned them into so-called better players. Take Mthethwa at Chiefs. Mthethwa didn't really, I think he's a super player. I thought Sundowns should have kept him, but they almost, I feel
Yeah.
that with not having the Steve Barker Stellenbosch around them, in that environment, I should say, actually takes a little bit away from them. What would you say to that?
Peter, yeah, it's a very good question. I've myself have sometimes, thought about, if you take a prime example as Ikram Reyners, when he played for us initially, was our top goal scorer, helped us get promoted. Went to Super Sport, things didn't really work out for him. Came back, within a season or two, got himself, up in the scoring charts, and then a big move to Sundowns. Ashley Dupree, was really doing well for us, was scoring prolific, amount of goals and assists. Went to, Chiefs, and it hasn't been an easy ride, as well as, Mthethwa. So I think there's two faults. There's two reasons, in my opinion. I think one is it's more pressure going to a team like Chiefs and Pirates, where by us, it's maybe a bit more of a safer environment. A bit of environment where you can get away with maybe making a mistake or two. It's not as out there as it is maybe playing for, one or two of the bigger teams, so-called bigger teams. So that pressure, maybe the players are not 100% ready for that. And then the other thing, I think it is from a coaching point of view, it's us recognizing what the best role for a certain player is in our team. We signed Mthethwa with a sole reason of a defensive holding, breakdown attacks, win the ball and give it to somebody else. And, when I watched him at Chiefs, maybe his role changed slightly where he was expected to, but more with the ball. So I think it's about recognizing the strengths of a player and playing to his strengths. I think we do that well. And again, it comes back to recruiting. We recruited Mthethwa just for that reason. And we allowed him to play that way because that's why we signed him, because he could do that. And not expecting players to do things that they are not totally capable of doing. So I think those are some of the reasons why they've done well with us and maybe elsewhere not as well. But we always let players go, hoping and really wishing that wherever they go on and kick on and be successful and, make national teams. And, whenever we lose a player, we're not, we're happy for them. And we also want them to do well wherever they go. So we always keep a keen eye on how their progress is going. But who knows? Maybe they'll all return one day and come back to home, and we can have all of them back in the yard again.
Good. Steve, we're going to take a quick ad break, and I'll be back with you shortly.
You see, it was this game that turned boys into giants. Even today's aces inherited the name from those who came before. Usabutha lo mlilo, buzalwa abaziyo, bazokutshela, lisegazini, forever.
Betway is giving customers a chance to win big with their 4 to score free weekly prediction. Simply predict the first teams to score in 4 Betway Premiership matches, and you could win 50,000 Rand. Scan the QR code on screen now to enter. Get way more with Betway. Standard T's and C's apply.
Hi, and welcome back, everybody. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share and comment. And I've got Steve Barker here with us, and you can send questions to Steve as well, and I'll get them to him during the week or the week after the Cup final. Hopefully come back to you with some answers. Steve, let's look at you. I mean, you look at your journey. You were obviously a Tux, you were an assistant, took over from Sammy, who I know quite well, not from the football field, but we won't go into that right now. And you won promotion. Then what you get is a so-called bigger job, Amazulu, who I'm sure are crying that they didn't keep you forever. And was a good spell, I'm sure, but not ultimately. You leave there and you end up in Stellenbosch, back in the first division, and I'm sure people went, that's where Steve Barker belongs, the first division coach. You win your promotion, and you get pigeonholed into something like that. And fantastically, you didn't break that mold. You created a whole new mold. How do you see yourself, Steve? Be honest and truly. I mean, what is your journey? You at some stage you must have realized, wait a minute, I'm going to get a kind of pigeonholed here. What am I going to do differently? Did you change your thinking about the game? Did you take a different approach? And I'm talking this kind of almost to let people out there who've had not exactly the kind of success in any walk of life. What did you do that you can pass on to some of these guys where you say, okay, I look like I may be going nowhere. People may not believe in me, but actually I believe in myself and I'm going to do this. And you end up here, as I say, arguably the best coach in the country right now.
Yeah, Peter, it's been an interesting and a tough journey. And you rightly say, there was a stage where I sort of felt and believed that people, exactly as you say, thought, he's just a sort of a run-of-the-mill coach, can get teams promoted maybe, but at a high level maybe won't be successful. So if you go back in the journey, obviously me and Sammy, also a great friend of mine, a wonderful guy, and his football brain is actually somebody I look up to in terms of his thinking of the game. So I took over from Sammy at Tux. People will remember that we got to a final as an NFD team. The Nedbank final, we lost to Swallows. That was after getting them promoted, and then had two sort of a half seasons of good success in the PSL. We finished top 8 in our first season. And then when I went to AmaZulu, it was just taking a job that I felt it was a sleeping giant in South African football. It was a big risk for me because they only had 4 points after 11 matches. I took over the team, and if you look, since we took over, myself and Wesley Sergel, my assistant, we sort of got enough points, 23 points out of the next 19 games, which if you had sort of looked at the points per game since we took over, we would have finished in the top 8 with AmaZulu. But having sort of gone there, they only had the 4 points. It just proved one hurdle too much. We needed to win our last game against Maritzburg at Moses to stay in the league. Unfortunately, we didn't. So there was good success. I felt going to AmaZulu. It proved that I could coach at a bigger team, so-called AmaZulu, and do well. But I just maybe ran out of games to save them. Then we went back into the NFD. It was a frustrating season because there was a lot of good players and there was a lot of sort of dispute between the club and players. They didn't want to pay them their PSL salaries in the NFD and signing on fees. And we didn't have good enough youngsters because those days you had to play sort of 5 under players. And so it was a bit of a frustrating season, left AmaZulu and then came to Stellenbosch, got them promoted, and obviously, had some good success in terms of log positions, qualifying for Africa, winning the calling. So I think what changed, I don't think I've changed too much in terms of my way I think about the game. I think it was just really believing in knowing what I can do. I've worked with limited budgets with many teams and had great success. So I just knew that I'm on the right track. I'm doing the right things. I respect the game. I'm humble enough to know that I can never become complacent. I do believe staying with the times is important. Studying football, seeing where it's going, where it's developing. I've just recently done my CAF A license, got that, badge behind me. I'm looking to do my UEFA Pro in the next year or two. So it's about daily learning, daily growing. And the biggest thing is never becoming complacent. You've got to always wake up every morning and go and do the best that you can each and every day. And whatever happens elsewhere, as long as you can look in the mirror the following day and know that you've given your best, it's what it's about.
Guys, so young people out there, you've just heard the life lessons from Steve Barker. And let me tell you something, anybody who's been successful will echo those same sentiments. If anything, rewind, listen to that again, and rewind and listen to that again, because it's how you are, how much effort you put into yourself, and how honest you are to yourself is where your success will come. And I think a lot of South African players need to learn that as well. Tell me, if you look at the side right now, and you're going into this game, you've got Africa coming up ahead. Do you think you've got enough, such a great season last season with Africa and the expectations that everybody has right now of you? Is there something different you're going to do? I mean, you don't have the biggest squad to try and get to make certain that Africa doesn't take away from, they always say in the English Premier League, oh, you're in the Champions League is going to affect your league form. How do you feel about that?
Peter, I think, like the previous question, a lot of people, may have had doubts about sort of my ability as a coach to really, be at the top end. And again, I thrive in situations where people are writing you sort of off already and saying you won't go playing in Africa, the league will suffer. The thing is, I know these things. I know the challenges that are going to be. I know that traveling and coming back, like we done last week, we left for Congo on the Friday, arrived back Monday, had to play midweek against Cape Town City. From there, we had to travel to Polokwane. We only came back Monday. Now we're traveling back to Durban. So I understand that there are bigger challenges and more obstacles in our path. But I think knowing that it's going to happen, it mustn't be a secret that all of a sudden you wake up and think, shit, this is difficult. It's what we want. We want to be playing on the continent. We want to be competing for all. So it's, if you want something and you get it, then embrace it and accept the challenges that there are going to be with it. So I know it's going to be a tough first season in terms of league, just managing the squad, but I want to be doing that. We want the pressure. We need to embrace the pressure that comes with playing in Africa. We can't hide away from it and say, oh, we're traveling and it's difficult. No, we want to be ambitious and we want to compete on all levels, and that is the aim. And the players need to understand that if they want to be at the top end, they have to cope with everything.
Steve, I think you guys actually are on the brink of something. I think you guys can do something off the field that would make a world of difference to South African football. And that's something that I would like to personally see happen, is that Maritzburg United had it at a stage, Bloemfontein Celtic had it at a stage where they could fill the stadium with their own supporters. And you've got a 15,000-seater stadium there.
Yes.
Do you think there's a chance that you guys one day will play regularly to 15,000 people who support Stellenbosch? And even if Chiefs come and play, Pirates come and play, you've got to say, actually, full us, we've sold 15,000 to our supporters. We can have season ticket holders and so on. Because the biggest problem in South African football, we don't understand history. Our clubs disappear, our clubs change grounds, our clubs go all over the place. I know, unfortunately, you had to play, had to play some of your games away because of pitches and so on. But will you guys become a true football club and make that your home, that the people of Stellenbosch embrace it, and that there's 7,000 to 15,000 people there all the time? Is that an aim as well? Besides obviously the on the field performances affect the off the field because a crowd got a winning team. But is that something that's important to you guys?
Yeah. Definitely, Peter. I think it's one of our sort of off-field strategic objectives is, I don't think a club like Stellenbosch or any club for that matter can easily compete with the Chiefs, Pirates in terms of support. And South Africa is unique in world football that, those two teams have support across the whole country. But there's no reason that we can't strive to be the third or fourth best supported team in the country. We have a unique opportunity. We represent a town. Not many clubs in the league, play with the name of the town as the club. We've got 34 to 36,000 students, every year studying in Stellenbosch. We've got a whole community behind us in terms of Ides Valley, Cluttersville, Jamestown, Kayamandi, and the Greater Winelands region. So a little bit of a disappointment for me is I just don't feel that we're getting enough respect from sort of, I wouldn't say respect, but, I would love to see Stellenbosch, advertising, the municipality getting it out there. Listen, Stellenbosch on a final on Saturday. Let's paint the town maroon. Everybody wear Stellies jersey on Friday. Get behind the students. Let them know who we are, what we're doing. I think that has to improve. What we've done as a club is remarkable in the short space. I think we need to get the whole town, everybody, students that come here, even if they're here for 3 or 4 years, find a way that this is the team that they support whilst they're here. And maybe when they move on back from finished studying, that they continue to support us. So it's definitely something I believe as a club we can achieve. Success goes a long way in helping that. But we also need to up our game in terms of marketing. Not only us as a football club, but I think as a town as a whole, we've got to just get more behind the team. And I think that is important.
I think if you can get that right, you'd be a great example of South African football on and off the field. And I think you've got a unique situation where you are that you could make it happen. I can give you a solemn promise right now that at SoccerBeat, our sponsors are Betway and Betway to the league. I'm going to speak to Betway about trying to help make a way of this happening and possibly use this as a model for the rest of South Africa. I'll give you my solemn word on that. I can't promise it'll work, but we've got a huge audience. We'll also use that audience to discuss how we can make that work in teams like you guys. Steve, before I let you go, 2 myths. I want you to tell me if these are true or not. Let's do the first one. I get a lot of people saying to us on media that the reason why they do well is that the Ruperts own the team and therefore they're as rich as Chiefs Mthethwa and they're the richest club in South Africa along with Sundowns. I mean, I've got my answer. If there were, you'd be buying players from selling players. But can you talk about the ownership and the model here quickly?
Yeah, Peter, it's that is obviously the perception. But I think people in the know and in football know that, we sort of run we want to be sustainable success over, many years and decades to come. We want this club to be here still in 30, 40, 50 years. And the only way you can do it, I believe, is doing it the right way. And I believe that's exactly what we're doing now. We're a club that we live off the grant of the league and our sponsors. And it's a sort of, a look to break even every season. The club and the shareholders, we're not here to make money, but we're also not here to lose money. So hence, we have to be really smart in our business. And sometimes it may mean strategically, you do lose a player and sell a player, which brings in funds. And some of those funds are used to then strengthen the squad. But no, there's no extra millions thrown at the club, not at all. It's not the way we're doing it. It's not the way we believe we'll have sustainable success. So we will continue to graft hard and not unnecessarily spend money.
So the answer to that is the Ruperts do not pump money to the club. They're not competing on the same level as Sundowns. Actually, by the way, Steve, you remind me of the Brighton model. They've always got a player replacing a player. They always selling, but they're always at top, despite their lack of resources relative to the big clubs. Then the last question, lots of people have asked me this question. They said that you were planning for the MTN Final when it came to Van Rooyen. He was on the bench and you went last 5 minutes, okay, World Cup time, and you sent him on. I would have done it, by the way. I'm just telling you, I would have done it if I was a coach. What's the answer?
Yeah, Peter, look, I was asked that today in the earlier press conference, and, why didn't Dino play the game? And to be totally honest, there was a lot of noise around Dino at the time. Pirates were really interested in him, and it was, his headspace wasn't 100%. He actually spoke to me and said he doesn't feel he's ready to start the game against Pirates, against Galaxy in the quarterfinal. So I said, okay, Dino, but, we're struggling. We don't have a lot of backup at right back. If you're not going to start, I understand, but we need you on the bench just in case, something happens, and of which he was happy to do so. And yeah, with 5 or so minutes to go, it wasn't, I wouldn't say it wasn't out of my thought. There was a thought that, maybe we advanced, we were winning that game, and maybe we draw Pirates. So, but I think Dino will be happy for us also. Obviously, I think he's in a win-win situation. Whoever wins the final, he will be happy. I just don't know whether the 5 or so minutes warrants a medal for him or not. But it was a strategic sort of move. He's a really good quality player, and the last thing we wanted was for him to score the winner against us in the final.
He's a hell of a player. I think he's not a few years younger, and same as Bassadin. I think that you made those two fullbacks top players. I think that's about it, Steve. Really appreciate it. Good luck for the final, and we'll keep in touch, and hopefully we'll have you on here again. And thanks very much. You're a star.
Thanks, Peter. If I can just say one last thing. It's refreshing to be interviewed by somebody like yourself with the type of questioning, the knowledge, the history, the wealth of experience that you have in this game. So, thank you. It's a privilege to have been here today, and keep up the good work.
I really appreciate that, Steve. Your words flatter me, and I really, really appreciate it. Thanks, everybody. After what Steve said to me about, I'm definitely going to get him on again. We'll talk about it. Cheers.
Liaka!